皆さんこんにちは、ケントです。So, if you've been subscribed to this channel, it's been a while, it's been a year and a half. Long story short, I've been preparing. I've been doing some shows, writing some jokes, and making a lot of meaningful connections in the comedy space in New York City. So a bit about me. I've always wanted to make sure that my Japanese American identity shows up in all my comedy. It's who I am, and talking about it feels the most authentic and true. And in doing so, I've always gravitated towards looking at Japanese comedy shows, American comedy shows, and really international comedy shows to try to kind of understand whether there's this platonic ideal, this joke that makes everybody laugh. And that's something that I've been pursuing for a very long time. So I've always been curious about all these shows that were originally Japanese and have made a big splash in American television. And those include Silent Library, American Ninja Warrior, America's Funniest Home Videos. Yeah, all those were originally Japanese TV shows or segments within Japanese TV shows. And with the new season of Shark Tank coming up, and I remember that Shark Tank is originally a Japanese TV show called Tigers of Money. And so I got really curious and I started doing some research. And then this came up, which was really interesting. In a 2018 Forbes Japan op-ed, the original producer of Tigers of Money talked about his involvement in making sure Shark Tank was a success. In 2009, Mark Burnett, the guy behind The Apprentice, he called out to Jin saying, hey, I really love Tigers of Money. I was hoping we could collaborate on creating an American version of the show. So what they did was create what's called a pilot. They spent a bunch of money to create a show that will really only be shown to studio executives. And in doing so, they found out something very interesting. What makes Japanese people excited about the show didn't necessarily translate to making American audiences and American performers on stage excited. As you know, in Shark Tank, the whole idea is that these people come to the sharks with a business that's, in its early stages, already been tested, and they're hoping to ask the sharks for some help to make that business a bigger thing. And also, one of the most interesting bits about Shark Tank is all the investors arguing over each other about how much money it would take to get how much percent of equity in the company. In Tigers of Money, the focus is less about a business. Most oftentimes, these Japanese entrepreneurs come to the investors without an actual idea that's been tested. They come with just a pitch. They don't come with, we've already done $200,000 of sales in Michigan. They don't come with those kind of statistics. They come with purely, hey, I have this passion project and I will love your money to get it kickstarted. So the Tigers of Money is more like a televised Kickstarter rather than Shark Tank, which takes existing businesses and makes them bigger. All that being said, what's interesting to me here is that through the localization of Tigers of Money into an American television show, Jin and Mark, all these producers recognized what makes an American show work for American audiences and Japanese show work for Japanese audiences. And for me, as a Japanese American who has grown up with Japanese and American comedy, this is very interesting to me because in my personal life, I know that certain jokes work in Japan, but certain jokes don't work in America. And even in my professional career, back when I used to work at Voltage, where I localized sexy anime guys to be as sexy in America, we realized, this is something that resonates with an American audience. This is something that doesn't. I was talking to these comedian friends, and we realized, yeah, we all love certain shows from around the world. We all would want to come up with new game show concepts and ideas. Why don't we start a club where we discuss and get excited about new game show concepts, segments, and international segments. So we started this club called the Game Show and Segments Research Club. And while we were doing that, we realized that eventually we would want to create a game show of our own. Eventually, we would want to come up with our own rules and create an original show that would do great. But that requires two things. One, a really, really good idea, and two, the producing chops to make good ideas into good shows. And so we decided, hey, maybe we should test one thing at a time. We will control for the first bit, the idea, get some international audience tested game show concepts that we love, and then produce them in America, in New York City, for a live audience. What this allows us to do is to build some transferable skills about how to produce a comedy show, but also, from my perspective, it really satisfies that part of my artistic goals to understand universal ideas between different cultures. I am Japanese American, and sometimes my Japanese sensibilities and American sensibilities clash within myself. I want to make comedy that makes a lot of people laugh. So, in any case, what's cool about Tigers of Money and Shark Tank, that story, is that the core concepts are the same. A person who wants to be invested in come to investors and they make a pitch. But the difference in focus each version of the show puts is really representative of a difference in American and Japanese culture. And I think that's fascinating. I think, to me, it resonates a lot because I have Japanese ideas in my head, I have American ideas in my head. And whenever I speak to a English-speaking or Japanese-speaking audience, I always do this localization in my head to make sure, okay, I have this idea, but within the cultural expectations of America, I should say it this, and this way. And that's something I always do. And I think that's something that anybody that comes from two different cultures could resonate with. In doing this new show, where we try to take international game show concepts and bring them to life in America, our hope is that we could hypothesize what makes these shows successful in their respective cultures, maintain their essence, and yet add creative differences in the American live version so American audiences would get excited and laugh out loud. So that was an idea we had. A week ago, we decided, hey, why don't we just pitch this? So we created the pitch deck, and I will share with you the presentation that I made later. And we shipped it around to a few theaters in New York City. Caveat, really, really cool theater in the Lower East Side, said yes. And usually, a new show gets a Tuesday slot or a Thursday slot, typically considered slots that are less popular because a lot of people don't want to be out and about on a Tuesday night. So typically a new show would get these less traffic slots, and Caveat could figure out, okay, this show, let's say a Tuesday show typically gets 30 people, but a new up and coming show got 40 people, and it gets that consistently. Then they could be a little bit more confident and say, hey, you know what? Let's bump this show to a more highly trafficked slot. But what ended up happening was that there was a last minute cancellation of a show. And they asked us, hey, would you want to do a Friday slot? Which is a very, very highly contested slot. We said yes, but honestly, I'm kind of freaking out. A Friday slot to be successful needs at least 50 people through that door. And truth be told, in all of my live comedy shows that I've done, the most I've ever performed in front of is around 50 people. So that's the peak. And we need to create a show where at least 50 people get through that door. Because what I want this show to be is a constant monthly thing. So every month we could come in, create a localized production of an international game show concept, figure out whether what we thought would work worked. I'm hoping that with this monthly cadence, we could get better at localizing shows, get better at creating hypotheses of what makes a show great in other countries. And really, we're hoping to have this cadence of learning while making people laugh about what makes good comedy good comedy. So for us, it's really important that we make a good impression to this theater space and to get at least 50 people through that door. For instance, if only one person comes to the show. For better or worse, that means that this concept of international shows localized for a New York live stage is going to get a bad rep. And I really, really want this idea to work so we could create a ongoing project where we could research and understand international comedy. So eventually we become better comedians ourselves. I'm going to be posting videos regularly on this channel in the lead up to this show, to kind of just show you like what goes into producing a New York City live comedy show too. It's something I'm doing for the first time in my life. We'll see what happens, but you know, I'm a little bit optimistic because the partners and the friends I've met in the last 3 years doing comedy in New York City, they're just truly good people and truly hilarious people. And a lot of them are super excited to collaborate and make this work. So I think that gives me hope. Please stay tuned. But yeah, the show date is October 21st at 7 p.m. at Caveat. I'll link the ticket details in the description below. But yeah, like it's I really want this to work, and yeah, stay tuned.